This annual meeting of stockholders of Granite Ridge Resources Incorporated is now called to order. I'm Griffin Perry, co-chairman of the board of directors of Granite Ridge, and I cordially welcome you to today's meeting. This annual meeting is being conducted online via live webcast. You may submit any questions at any time during the meeting using the field provided for questions in the web portal. Emily Fuquay will act as secretary of this meeting, and Leisha Savinetti will act as inspector of elections. Emily, will you present the list of stockholders entitled to vote at this meeting, as well as evidence that the notice of this meeting was given to stockholders?
I present a complete list of stockholders of the company entitled to vote at this meeting, being the stockholders of record at the close of business on March 24th, 2026. This list has been kept on file at the company's offices at 5217 McKinney Avenue, Suite 400, Dallas, Texas 75205, for a period of 50 days prior to this meeting, and has been open to the examination of any stockholder for any purpose germane to the meeting at any time during ordinary business hours. During this meeting, the list may be inspected by any stockholder who is present. Further, I present the following documents relating to the calling and convening of this meeting. First, a notice, proxy statement, and proxy, and second, an affidavit from Continental Stock Transfer and Trust Company that such notice, proxy statement, and proxy were mailed on April 8th, 2026 to the stockholders of record at the close of business on March 24th, 2026 that were entitled to notice of the meeting.
Thank you, Emily. I accept these documents as tendered in order that they be filed with the minutes of the meeting. The company has appointed Leisha Savinetti to act as inspector of elections at this meeting. As inspector, Leisha will ascertain the number of shares outstanding and the voting power of each, determine the shares represented at the meeting and the validity of proxies and ballots, count all votes and ballots, and certify and declare to this meeting her determination of the number of shares represented at this meeting and her count of all votes and ballots. Will any attendees who have not yet registered their attendance with Continental please register now? Leisha, would you please present the attendance report?
As election inspector, I report that there are present at this meeting in person and by proxy the holders of at least 115,786,466 shares of the company's common stock, out of a total of 130,876,513 shares of common stock outstanding and entitled to vote as of the record date of March 24th, 2026. Thus, the holders of approximately 87.78% of the outstanding shares of common stock entitled to be voted are present in person or by proxy at this meeting.
On the basis of the report of the Inspector of Elections, I declare that a quorum is present and that this meeting is now open for business. Emily, were there any stockholder nominations or proposals for business for this meeting properly filed in advance of this meeting as provided in the bylaws?
No, there were no stockholder nominations or proposals for business for this meeting.
Since no stockholder nominations were properly filed, the business of this annual meeting is limited to the previously announced 5 matters, in accordance with the provisions of the bylaws. The polls will now be open for the next few minutes with respect to voting on the matters discussed in the proxy statement. Those stockholders who wish to vote during the meeting may vote using the annual meeting website and follow the instructions found there. As originally set forth in this notice, the first scheduled item of business to be conducted in the election of 3 directors. The board of directors has nominated each of Thaddeus Darden, Michelle J. Everard, and Kirk Lazarine to serve as directors with a term that would expire at the annual meeting of the stockholders to be held in 2029, or upon our respective earlier resignation. At such time as our respective successors are elected and qualified. There being no stockholder nominations properly filed with the secretary, I declare the nominations closed. The board recommends the stockholders vote for each director at this time. Please proceed to submit your votes pursuant to the online meeting website. As set forth in the notice, the second scheduled item of business to be conducted is the ratification of the appointment of Forvis Mazars LLP as the company's independent registered public accounting firm for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2026. The board recommends the stockholders vote for the ratification of the appointment of the independent auditors. At this time, please proceed to submit your votes pursuant to the online meeting website. As set forth in the notice, the third scheduled item of business to be conducted is the approval on an advisory basis of the compensation to be paid to the company's named executive officers. The board recommends for stockholders to vote for the approval on an advisory basis of the compensation to be paid to the company's named executive officers. At this time, please proceed to submit your votes pursuant to the online meeting website. As set forth in the notice, the fourth scheduled item of business to be conducted in this is the determination on an advisory basis of obtaining advisory votes on the compensation to be paid to the company's named executive officers every year, every 2 years, or every 3 years. The board recommends the stockholders vote for the advisory vote on the compensation to be paid to the company's named executive officers every year. At this time, please proceed to submit your votes pursuant to the online meeting website. As set forth in the notice, the fifth and final scheduled item of business to be conducted is the increase to the number of shares of the company's common stock available for issuance under the company's long-term incentive plan and a 2-year extension of the term of the plan. The board recommends the stockholders vote for the increase in the number of shares of the company's common stock available for issuance under the plan and the 2-year extension of the term of the plan. At this time, please proceed to submit your votes pursuant to the online meeting website. Is there anyone still trying to submit votes? If yes, please say so using the field provided for questions in the web portal. The polls for voting on the matters before this annual meeting are hereby closed at this time. It now appears that the election inspector is ready to report the results of voting.
Having counted and determined the number of votes voting upon the items for the stockholders as Inspector of Elections, I find and report that first, each of the 3 director nominees has received a plurality of the votes cast by stockholders at the annual meeting, and as a result, because of the election of directors at the annual meeting was not contested. Each such director nominee has been elected by the stockholders of the company to serve for a 3-year term ending at the 2029 annual meeting of stockholders or until such director nominee's successor has been duly elected and qualified. Second, the ratification of the appointment of Forbes Mazars LLP as the company's independent registered accounting firm for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2026 has received the affirmative vote of at least a majority of the voting power of the votes cast at the annual meeting and has been approved. Third, the approval of an advisory basis of the compensation paid to the company's named executive officers has received the affirmative vote of at least a majority of the voting power of the votes cast at the annual meeting and has been approved. Fourth, the determination on an advisory basis to obtain advisory votes on the compensation to be paid to the company's named executive officers every year has received the affirmative vote of at least a majority of the voting power of the votes cast at the annual meeting and has been approved. And fifth, and finally, the increase in the number of shares available for issuance under the company's long-term incentive plan and the extension of the term of the company's long-term incentive plan by an additional 2 years has received the affirmative vote of at least a majority of the voting power of the votes cast at the annual meeting and has been approved.
The report of the Inspector of Elections as presented is accepted. Emily, please safeguard the ballots, proxies, and the oath and report and certificate of the Inspector of Elections and maintain them among the records of the company. This completes the only scheduled items of business to be conducted at this meeting. I declare that there is no further business to be brought before this meeting. I want to take this opportunity to thank the stockholders for their continued support and also to thank everyone for coming to the meeting. At this time, I will entertain a motion that the meeting be adjourned. Do I have such a motion?
I so move.
Can I have a second?
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The motion carries. The 2026 Annual Meeting of Stockholders of the company is hereby adjourned. Thank you for coming.